Okay, so is this our group? This is amazing. I was thinking maybe I'll come on the screen. There'll be 4 or 5 people. We'll chat for a little bit. Good gracious. This is very impressive. Okay, so welcome to Homeschooling 101. Now, I think I see some veterans on here, people who probably know more than I do. So I'm going to ask for your mercy as I kind of try to help us navigate through this kind of beginning, as Father said, the nuts and the bolts. So I first of all, I would like to start us off with a prayer, and I'm going to talk about this prayer a little bit later. So I thought maybe we'd start with this. Many of you may know by heart, if you are a homeschooler, I would assume the prayer of Saint Philaret of Moscow. It is a beautiful prayer. I wake up in the morning, my alarm goes off around 5. As Father said, I'll just remind you that I did homeschool my children for 25 years, all 6 of them. And then 2 weeks after my last one went to school at a private school around the corner, I was contacted by a Coptic priest who asked me if I would help him out a little bit. And 5 years later, I'm the principal, kindergarten teacher, and janitor, really, of a small school in Chapel Hill of about 75 students, K through 7. And so my eyes open at 5 a.m. and I pray this prayer before my feet hit the floor. So if you will just pray with me, I will read the prayer of St. Philaret of Moscow. O Lord, grant me to greet the coming day in peace. Help me in all things to rely upon your holy will. In every hour of the day, reveal your will to me. Bless my dealings with all who surround me. Teach me to treat all that comes to me throughout the day with peace of soul and with firm conviction that your will governs all. In all my deeds and words, guide my thoughts and feelings. In unforeseen events, let me not forget that all are sent by you. Teach me to act firmly and wisely without embittering and embarrassing others. Give me strength to bear the fatigue of the coming day with all that it shall bring. Direct my will. Teach me to pray and pray yourself in me. Amen. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about starting out homeschooling. And if you want to put some questions in the chat, I like this session to have plenty of time for you to ask things that you'd like to know. Okay, and they say the children's session is beginning. So if any of the children want to go off and go to that um, to that session, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so I have my notes. As Father Noah was saying, I was at the very original St. Amelia homeschool conferences at the village many years ago, and it is one of my most very wonderful times of the year. And so I pulled out my notes the other day as I was preparing for this session. I was like, wow, that's really insightful. I should probably read these every now and then just to give myself a little encouragement. So anyway, so the real reason that I'm here is I have very few passions. One of them is taking care of my husband and my kids. Another one's I like to plant flowers in the yard. And the other one is encouraging people to homeschool their children, especially when they're little, because I have not met one child. And again, I run a school, so I see children all day long who would not probably be better off on a couch with a book and their mom or dad. And so there are many days when I see a child that I would love to spend 30 or 40 minutes with, helping them grapple with something, talking about something amazing. And I don't get to do it because I don't have the time to work with that child individually. So that's what I do. I encourage people. In fact, I'm not going to name any names, but there are people on this call right now who I spend all of my time just encouraging them and doing anything that I can do to make sure that their homeschooling experience is wonderful. So anyway, so that's what I do. That's my passion. So here I've got a little bit of stuff to say to you, and then I'm going to ask if you have any questions. So the first thing that I want you to do if we were at the village, I would give you a 3x5 card. So if you don't have a 3x5 card around you, shame on you. You should always have 3x5 cards. The only thing better is a Post-it. But if you have a 3x5 card or a piece of paper or something, I want you to get that out. And as I'm talking, I would like you to write down a very short, this is not an assignment where I'm looking for paragraphs. I want something short. I'd really like one really good, concise sentence of why you homeschool or why you want to homeschool. I don't need pages and pages, because when I tell you why you have this 3x5 card, you will know concise and short is what I'm looking for. So you take out your paper, and while I'm giving you a few kind of pointers about starting homeschooling, you write down, this is for everyone. I don't care if you've been homeschooling for 50 years. Everybody needs to write this down on a 3x5 card, okay? Or your piece of paper. And so you start writing that down. And then if we have any questions, you can put them in the chat, or if you just want to hold them, we're going to have plenty of time at the end to be able to take things, to take questions from you. So I'm just going to kind of go through my notes with you. And these are just some things, you know, wisdom from the sage, the old lady who homeschooled for 1,000 years. Now, I will tell you this. If you look around, this is my husband's beautiful library. This was my homeschool room for 25 years. My last one's a senior this year, and he will be going off to college. And so this is what you get in your homeschool room after you get rid of all of your children. So that's inspiration for you. We didn't have a library like this until they were all gone. All right. So the process of beginning to homeschool is very important. It's like building a building. Foundations are everything. If you enter homeschooling half-heartedly or for a reason, like my kid would rather not get dressed up in the morning and get on a bus, you are likely to fail. Failure does not mean that you put your kids in school. That is not failure. That choice is just a progression of education. So when I mean failing, I mean that you set out to do something and you didn't meet your goal, okay? The first fault in a homeschooling foundation is if a husband and a wife are not on the same proverbial homeschool page. Homeschooling without the support of either parent can be, and in my humble opinion, will be the beginning of the end. Parents must see themselves as a team of educators. So sit down with your spouse before deciding to homeschool and make sure that your 3x5 cards match up or at least complement each other. Okay? If you don't do that, then you're going to be on a different page. And it's better to be on the same page. Okay? I love that word complement because it means complete. You may see yourself as principal and teacher or co-teachers or whatever floats your homeschooling boat. Just make sure you agree. Nothing a kid likes better than a crack in the armor. If you think I jest and that homeschooling a couple of kids isn't like going to war, some days you are in for a big surprise. Once you know why you are doing what you are doing, then you have to decide how to do it. So here comes the hard part, deciding how to homeschool in a way that fits your family dynamic. Not somebody else on the screen, but your family dynamic. Maybe you have one child. Maybe you live on a farm. Maybe you have 8 children. Maybe you're 9 months pregnant. That baby's always due at the end of August when school's starting, because that's just the way it goes. You have to decide what's right for your family. You need to choose a learning style and curriculum for your homeschool. My motto in life is all things in moderation. So research is important and must be done, but too much research can be paralyzing. So research, choose a curriculum and stick with it. Now, I know homeschool moms who spend all of their time looking for new and wonderful curriculum. What ends up happening is there is a ridiculous amount of stuff out there. And if you get absorbed into this daily looking for something else, you're going to have no time to focus on the things that are important because you're continually looking for the next thing that you're going to be doing. You may reassess as needed and change as things in your homeschool change. Remember that reassessment is good, but chaos is bad. I'm going to say that again. Reassessment is good, but chaos is bad. So make changes rarely and only when they are thought out and implemented slowly. A child tends to not apply himself or herself if they think if we just wait around a few days, mom will change her mind and we won't have to do this. The success of your homeschool can only be measured by your goals, not the expectations of your homeschool by others. If your goal is that your children learn to read, write, and do arithmetic to a certain standard, then you can measure that pretty easily and know if you are successful. If your goal is that your children excel in academics as well as learn to be Christ-like, then that is what you should be looking for in their day-to-day actions. You will most likely continue homeschooling if you feel successful and you think that you have maintained your sanity. If you don't feel successful and your sanity is not intact, you will most likely quit. So next, we will look at ways to make you successful and sane. Avoiding burnout. I call this section avoiding burnout, but I hate that phrase. I have been told since I was a teenager, if you keep going like you're going to burn out. I don't know if any of you heard Father Noah talking about my life, but it's a little crazy. I do a lot of things. I'm well past, I think, burnout stage at this point, because the truth is burnout usually comes when someone is not well planned and they have the inability to reassess. If your day is planned, your week is planned, your month is planned, and your year is planned, and you have the humility to reassess when you need to, you will probably avoid burnout. If you don't know what you're doing on Thursday, and by the time you get to Thursday, you don't have the humility to say, I don't have any idea what's going on here, you're probably going to be burned out. And that's usually what happens to people in those situations. I find that homeschool moms tend to be smart women with lots of kids and high expectations. These are my people. I love them. And if the quote, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, then the hand that homeschools rules the universe. If I can just go through a list of definite things, now you're going to laugh at these things, but trust me, I'm right about this. I promise you. They will keep chaos at bay and help you better than all of the educational theories you've ever read. You ready? Number one, get dressed and brush your teeth. Number two, make your kids get dressed and brush their teeth. Number three, have a place for homeschooling and homeschool items stay there. There is nothing more irritating than a batch of people with unbrushed teeth in their pajamas looking for crayons. I mean, obviously at that point, the day's done. Where are you going from there? Number four, have everyone's shoes by the door. I'm going to say it again. Have everyone's shoes by the door. I don't care if it's in a basket. I don't care if it's in a Rubbermaid. I don't care if it's in one of those fancy little hand-carved shelves. I have a closet beside my front door, and I have 6 children and a husband. And when you open it, shoes kind of fall out on you like a crazy mess. My dad actually had a nightmare one time. He told me, he said, Shell, I had this nightmare. You know that closet with the shoes? I opened it. I was in there. I said, Dad, that's not nice. But all of our shoes stay there. I find that homeschoolers waste entirely too much time looking for shoes. So if you're getting ready to go somewhere and all you have to say is everybody go to the door, you're going to save time. And if you start that spiral of looking for your shoes, you were going to Target at 9, now it's 10:30. We're going to have to feed them while we're out. You lose an entire day. Put the shoes by the door. Number 5, have a monthly calendar by your phone or on your phone. You can tell I did this a while ago when people actually had phones. With your phone, so when people call you and ask you to do things, you can quickly check your calendar. That keeps you from double booking, triple booking, and again, losing your sanity. Use 3x5 cards for every member of your family. so that everyone knows what is expected of them and what they need to get done during the day. If you have children coming back to you, what was I supposed to do? Page 73. I don't understand. Am I feeding the dog today? What's going on? You have a 3x5 card. Maybe it's on your whiteboard. Whatever it is, make sure that they know what's expected of them that day. Plan a day out and try to do all of your errands on that one day. I know that sounds impossible, but if you decide you're going to the bank on Monday, grocery store on Tuesday, farmer's market on Wednesday, we've got to be at church half the day on Friday, you will lose an entire week of homeschooling. And at the end, you will say, we've done nothing. I'm so unsuccessful at this. So plan it all for one day. We're not doing school today. This is errand running day. Add some money at the grocery store, weigh some produce. You're good. You're good to go. All right. Number 8, give everyone a space for their homeschooling items and have them put their things away and be in charge of their things. Now, this is kind of a pet peeve with me. I do have 6 children. We do live in a 3-bedroom house. So I have 2 girls and 4 boys. It didn't work out evenly. So I believe it's very important that children feel like they have space. We don't have a large house, and so everybody's always piled on top of each other. We love each other. Everybody will sit on the same couch. You'll often find all of them, even though they're teens and 20s, in my bed. They're always on top of each other. But it's important that they have their own space. And so if your child's a homeschooler, you send them to school, they would have their own desk, they would have their space. So try to give them a place that they feel is their spot. And then when they can't find their crayons, it's their problem. All right. Number 9, going outside is a school subject. All right. Going outside is a school subject. Number 10, plan dinner for the week so you don't have to think about it every day at 3 o'clock. All right. God had 10 commandments. I've got 10 things. That's the way it works. Don't forget that you are doing all that you do to the glory of God. Begin each day with the prayer of St. Philaret of Moscow before your feet hit the floor. Go forth and do good. You started this whole thing to grow godly children. So be godly. When you find you are not being godly, we have a good prayer for that too. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. So anyway, so those are pretty much my notes for starting homeschooling. All right. So I think the what ends up happening to homeschoolers is we get into this, we talk to people. It sounds really exciting, but you really need to know the nuts and bolts. So those are just some of my nuts and bolts to kind of go with. So anyway, so it's perfect. Okay. So I thought maybe if anybody has any questions at this point about anything I've said, you can unmute your mic. I think, can you unmute your microphone, or you can type them in the
Yes, they can unmute their microphone. I think with the size of a group, we can just one at a time speak up. So
okay, good. So if anybody have any questions, or what do you think? Any thoughts? Go ahead. Say your name.
Yes, Samia. Yes, I'm doing this on behalf of my daughter-in-law who homeschools and doesn't have the time right now to watch this. But oh gosh, what was the question I was going to ask? Oh, what do you do when you have like school-age children, but you still have young, very young preschoolers, like 2 and all? How do you keep the little ones entertained while you're trying to teach the big ones?
No problem. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I have 6, and I started homeschooling the oldest one. Usually babies, I find in homeschool families, they pop out every 2 to 3 years. So that means that every 2 to 3 years, you feel like, oh, great, this year is going to be crazy because I've got a baby. Maybe you got to nurse the baby. You're nursing the baby. You're doing math. You got the toddler over here. So it is a lot of work. Homeschool moms and homeschool dads are working all the time. It's a lot of work, but it can be done. So I think I would give this advice to people who have little ones while you're trying to homeschool. First of all, we go back to having a place that you homeschool. So I know it's difficult. I don't care if it's just a corner of a room. Establish that as the homeschool spot. The other thing is, just because you're not kindergarten or second grade doesn't mean that you can't have school things, a school space. So what I always do is in my homeschool room, I have a desk where each, or a table or whatever, they have their name where they're supposed to sit, that kind of thing. I have a box of Legos in the one corner. I have the little ones have their box of crayons. I have pictures printed off for them to be able to color while I'm doing something else. Another thing that I think I have to tell you this, I think people do it. I've known people to do it. To me, it could never work. If I put my homeschool room upstairs, like on the third floor or in a room over the garage, I can't do it because I'm like, wait a minute, I got to go put the laundry from the washer to the dryer. And homeschool kids are amazing. The second you leave the room, they all vanish. I don't know where they go, but they just leave. I might find them under the swing set. I find them all over. Come back, everybody. And I spend, an hour getting them back. And then they got to have a snack. So I put my homeschool room right adjacent to my kitchen. I'm either in the kitchen, in the laundry room, but I can see them from that kitchen, and they better not move if I go to stir a pot. So I would say have a place, have it somewhere centrally located that you can have everyone together, have things for the little ones to do. As a homeschooler, you have got to think 3 steps ahead. So you have to know tomorrow I'm going to have things for them to color, workbooks for them to do. They're doing their school, you're doing your school. The other thing is exploit nap time. So when the little ones go down to nap, that's where maybe you listen to your older one read, or you do some sort of math explaining that really needs concentration. The other thing that's really helpful with that is if you try to get things done in the morning, if you save some of the more difficult things for maybe in the evening, because your husband's going to be home or your wife's going to be home. And so they could take the littler ones and you could spend some time, or you can give that hard math problem to your husband. That's always a positive. So that's what I would say. Have a place, let the little ones have a place. And I will tell you that a family who has always homeschooled doesn't know any different. So my children didn't realize that that's not what you did all day. So the 2-year-olds just were doing school. They would put together a puzzle. But if I got to run to the back room and get a puzzle, find the crayons, what are you doing? Why are you here? That takes up your whole day. So have everything where you need it, have things for the little ones to do, and make sure you exploit nap time. Use that evening time when your husband comes home, or if a grandma comes over and can listen to a first grader read. Use all of your resources. You don't have to be Superwoman or Superman. It's really not necessary. So that's what I would say to that.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful.
And you can teach math while nursing a baby. It's easily done.
There we go. Okay, thanks so much.
All right. All right. And this person says that she has certain toys, that's true, that are set apart just for school time. So if those are just school time toys and they don't get to play with them other times, they're going to be much more interested in them. So for example, I keep all the puzzles in the homeschool room. So they don't really do puzzles, around the house. That's their time. So that's an excellent, somebody says time consuming toys like Play-Doh and watercolors. Exactly. Have a bucket of Play-Doh. Have your watercolors. Maybe you even have a little, like a jug of water and some little Dixie cups so you don't have to run out. Prepare for what you're doing. A little one can paint with water or Play-Doh. I have kids who can play Play-Doh for hours. Have plenty of Play-Doh toys, things to cut, places to put the Play-Doh. And then you can just stop. That is a wonderful pile of spaghetti. I love that. And then you go back to your other one. And so I usually do my tables around me so that I can see them all. All right. And so this lady says she uses, keep lessons short. Exactly. There's no need for I know that in school they spend all of these hours. I teach school. I waste more time in school just getting people to go to the bathroom and come back. I could teach my kindergartners at school. If I had one of them at home, hour, 20 minutes tops. I can teach them everything they need to know in a day. I'm there for 6 hours pulling out my hair. It's crazy. All right. Go ahead, Melissa.
Yes. So my boys are in Montessori. I have 4 boys also. And the oldest 2, thinking of bringing them out of their Montessori school and homeschooling them next year for first and second grade. And I had the option to leave the toddler and the preschooler there, which I think I might do just so I can get to where I can handle it. I know that they're not going to be learning this entire, like you said, it's only an hour, hour and a half. I have a job that is very flexible, but I'm afraid, what are they going to do the rest of the time? How do I keep them from just like tearing everything up? I don't want it to turn into they want to watch movies, they want the iPad, the begging for those things. So, and I'm sorry if like these are like whatever baby questions. But I'm afraid, but I want to do it. I'm more afraid of, leaving them in school. I
Okay.
want to do it. How do I keep them from tearing up?
Those are great questions. They're great questions. You're exactly right. So first of all, you have to think to yourself, what kind of learning environment are they in? Now they're in a Montessori environment. That's going to be different than pulling them out of a traditional sit in a desk, do your thing. So they're already kind of self-learners at this point. So I think your best bet is probably, I don't mean you can leave the other 2 in, that's fine, to give yourself a run and jump of how this goes. I think the key is for you to have plenty of things planned. So if they're used to stations, Montessori's huge on. So if you have stations and if they go through and then they can move to this and move to that. So there's limit. So you can do, again, you've got an hour and 20 minutes. You've got the 2 of them going on. I would do, a little bit and then a little bit and then maybe a little bit. And that's the way I would do it. I would make sure they have plenty of activities to do. Maybe get like a 500-piece puzzle and that just stays on the table, stays there. And then, okay, it's puzzle time. I'm sure you could put on the whiteboard a little schedule for what they do. This is Play-Doh time. This is puzzle time. This is sit quietly and look at this book time. This is start this video on seahorses time, and have your day planned out. I don't think there's anything wrong with children having just time to play Legos, so that's okay for them to have downtime. Just remember, downtime is not education. Downtime is education. So sending, I have 6 kindergartners in my class right now, and when I first started this year, they didn't really know how to play very well. So now they've gotten where they've got this Lego game going. Every time I take them off the Legos, when they go back to the Legos, they start like in the middle of the game and they're really into it. And so I allow them like 40 minutes at the end of the day to just play Legos together. And it's you wouldn't believe the whole system of, they've got a whole government going down there, and they've all turned 6 and they're all very into this now. So I think that's your key. Your key is, first of all, don't be afraid, because you're going to be fine. It's going to be fine. You can't break anybody pretty much that quickly. So you got some time. So, and the good thing about, babies aren't easily broken. Kids aren't easily broken. We're much more easily broken. So I would just take it, again, plan your month out easily, but then plan your week, but then plan your day to make sure that the kids understand, we're going to stay on this schedule and this is the way that we're going to do it. And I don't think you'll have a hard time getting them in. If you make it look like this is the way we run, this is the way our homeschool runs, get them on board. Okay, then we're going to, and the other thing too, is I always tell homeschoolers, have their snacks like done in those little bento boxes. Those are cool. I didn't have those when my kids were little, but they're little bento boxes in the refrigerator, but not just, it's snack time, go get your bento boxes and then you can sit and do whatever. And so I think, I feel like from listening to you that you have the ability to do that. It's just, it's hard when somebody else has been doing it. And now you're thinking to yourself, man, I got to do that. That's going to be it. There's a little fear in that, but it's okay. Embrace it.
It's
and
the brothers together dynamic, I think, that I worry about,
Right. Well, you have to remember now, they have been gone. They have been in other schools. They have been separated into groups of age. That's not really the way humans are made to be, right? God doesn't give us a litter. Thank the Lord. So kids are actually made to be in a set in a place where there's olders, youngers, and they tend to self-regulate right that. You put all 5-year-olds together, they all teach each other how to pick their nose properly. You know, you put an 8-year-old in there and he's like, gross, don't do that.
Right.
So they self-regulate. So I think I would use them together, maybe just let them start to see each other more as a team. So let's see. So I think that's what you need to do. You need to understand, listen, it's going to be rocky. Coming from that to you is going to be rocky, but give yourself some time. And remember, don't be scared to reassess. Don't go quickly and don't let it look like chaos, but don't be scared to reassess. Your first plan might not be your best. It's okay to have plan C. I don't know, D might work better. All right. Okay, let's see. We've somebody's having a problem keeping their high schooler from the Play-Doh. That's also an issue. I have assistants at school and I come in and they're sitting. I'm like, what are you doing? Play-Doh. Boredom can be the mother of invention. If you tell them that they can and cannot do, they will become they'll become self-learning, self-entertaining, but in more productive ways. But do give them an amount that they need to do or accomplish. That's right. Very good. So they feel validated. Good. All right. Setting screen time limits is incredibly important. Legos are great and educational. Play is learning. I second the boredom being the mother of invention. I found that filling my kids with my attention early in the day was key to them playing on their own in the afternoon. And that's true. And I think we all get more, a little more tired and ready to do something a little quiet in the afternoon. It's okay to have a 30-minute in your room looking at a book. That's okay. Those things. Now I have to tell you, when I homeschooled, this whole iPad, iPhone thing was not an issue. It was great. And we had to put an actual VHS tape. We did move to DVDs during my homeschooling years, but you people do struggle with something that is, it is very difficult. It's very easy. Children, I have kids at my school. They go home, they get home, turn on the iPad, boom, they stay on the iPad until they go to bed. I'll just tell you right now, I think that is terrible. Again, limiting the screen time if they're or just getting rid of it. I don't know, but at least 30 minutes or something like that, a little show that they watch or something. But and I'll tell you the worst thing you could ever do, and you probably don't do this because y'all are all wonderful parents, is the YouTube thing, which was not a thing when I had children, but my kindergartners do this. They go home and they go on YouTube and the parents see a child's show on YouTube. And then because I have millennials that I, raised, they tell me how this works. And then it pops up suggestions. And the next suggestion is a little more, and then the next suggestion, and they end up 30 or 40 minutes later, they are in something that you have no idea what they're in. So I just say YouTube might be, Father can help me, might be of the devil. So kind of putting those things to the side, have plenty of books, have puzzles. Those are all wonderful things. How about just outside, just having wood and things that they can, move around. I had a pile of bricks in my backyard. The homeowner before us left them there. The boys would move the bricks. They take the bricks over here. It was like that movie Holes. They just move the bricks around. So anything like that. Get an order of a dump of sand in your backyard, whatever it takes to get them, see how many sticks they can gather for you and give them a dime. I don't know. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else have a question? Got anything? Oh, sure. Cheryl, what you got to say?
I was just going to share that when Samia was asking, right, I hope I said that correctly, about your daughter, there's a great article, and it's been around for years, from Hands-On Learning. I can't remember the name of the website, but it was the article was called "The Baby is the Lesson." And my favorite thing that I've done for my children, so I have 7, is having a baby. Because when I was in school, I wasn't around babies at all. Like you said, I was only around my peer group, or maybe somebody a year or two older, a year or two less, but not babies. And my favorite thing for my children is that they've learned about human beings, So yes, it can be frustrating that you have a baby or a toddler, but your other children need to see that that person's more important than the book. You know what I mean? Than the lesson. I'm not saying, that means your children become illiterate because you never get to the lesson. I'm just saying, always have it in your mind that, remember, Jesus stopped on the way. There was a schedule. They had a plan. right? And he would reassess according to the Holy Spirit, right, Shell? Like he'd have to tell the disciples, well, hold on. And then he ministers to the blind man, you know? So
Exactly.
our children are kind of blind. And sometimes we are too. And so we have to let that light come in and remind us the baby's the lesson. And we play with the baby 5 minutes, right? Like you said, Shell, like sometimes children just need 5 minutes. The toddler just needs you to go, that is such a good little clay person. I'm sorry, it was a plant. I see it now, right? And they're offended because you did not get the art. And then you can come back to lesson, and your other children saw how important that was. So
Exactly. That's another thing too, that I think we're often so focused on the curriculum, the information that we are pouring into this child, which is so important. And yet we neglect the virtue that we are trying to grow. So I had a parent say to me, well, I want my son to be put in a more advanced math class because he's having to wait on the other students. And I looked at him and said, are you kidding me? Anybody can do math. What about waiting on another student? What about the patience, the empathy to look at another human and say, man, it took them a long time to get that. That was really hard for them. So being able to do that, you're right, having the empathy, having the patience. And I'll tell you what, any of my children that I look at and say, be quiet, I'm talking to this one, they will be quiet. Children don't learn those things are not taught to children because children are in a room where everything is goes right to them, right to their age group, exactly what they can do that day. So being in a classroom or a group or where there's other people of other ages and other abilities and other needs, that is the lesson. That is the curriculum. Because the truth is, they're not going to have to do geometry when they get to heaven, but they are going to have to be a sheep, right? When they're divided, you don't want them on the goat side because they didn't even see that Jesus was there. You want them on the sheep side. They helped and they didn't even realize they were helping. So remember what your goal is. Your goal is not to pour information into that child. Again, sure, they're going to learn to read, they're going to learn to write. That's fine. They can learn all of those things and you're going to be successful in that. But will you be successful in cultivating virtue in that child? And you can use every situation in the home. I mean, the toilet is overflowing. Let's go. We're all going to do this together. We're going to call the plumber, all of these things. So I think the problem is sometimes as homeschoolers, we get this idea from the school kind of thing. But when you really look at families and the dynamic and how it was long ago when the family all learned together in the same setting, it wasn't like that. It was the family. When it's time to get the corn in, you got the corn in. That was the lesson of the day. Don't get your hand caught in the machine. That's what you did. And so I think that we get so caught up in this book that we've got to get to page 73. We are on page 72. We lose focus. All right, anybody else? Got a hand? I can't always see the hands. Just start talking if you got something. Okay, go ahead, Lauren. Wait, got to unmute. I can't hear you. Wait a minute, I got to unmute you. Unmute.
Go. Can
There
you
you
hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
So my situation, I have 5 kids, ages 2 to 11, and we've homeschooled off and on, well, for about 4 years. And recently we just transitioned our 2 older kids who are now 3rd and 5th to a classical school. So I think I'm struggling with this next year. Do I send my younger kids to that school as well? Because the way the tuition model is set up is everyone pays one price and it covers every kid. So I think my heart is, which is great, but
that's great.
Yeah, my heart is, I think, to homeschool, but I think I'm struggling with seeing the big picture and the benefit of, like, is there an actual benefit in keeping them, the younger kids, home, and then maybe thinking about transitioning them to that school in 7th grade or something like that.
Do you want me to be honest, or do you want me to be politically correct?
Yes, honest. Thank you.
All right. This is why I could never run for president. I talk way too much. All right. I will tell you, I do run an elementary school and it's a classical school.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty good teacher. And I have some great teachers that work for me. But I'll tell you right now, those are not my children.
Yeah.
And although I love them each dearly, they're not my children. And so when one is struggling with something, he's like, come on, dude, we got to get on because we got 6 other people here. And there's things you got to get through during the day. And there are times when they're tired. Had a little girl today, she fell and hit her head on one of the chairs. She was fine, but she came out and she said, Mrs. Keim, my brain hurts too much to do math. And I looked at her and I said, I feel your pain, Sarah. My brain often hurts too much to do math. So, I mean, I'm able to do that. I happen to be the principal and the kindergarten teacher, but I feel like that having little ones home is important because only learning in that individual setting. Now, I will tell you, full disclosure, I sent all of mine to school in 7th grade at a classical school that does
Okay.
not have that same tuition model. I wish.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I want them to go and I want them to learn other aspects of teaching. And that teacher is terrible. Are they terrible, or do you just have to change your way of learning? That's okay. So I don't have a problem with that. People who homeschool all the way through high school, great. That's all wonderful. But little ones often need things taught at their pace to them. They need time to just lay on the floor and look at the ceiling fan. We don't do that in school. Nobody's got time to look at the ceiling fan in school. That kid is a problem. And so I would encourage you that if you could keep the little ones home until they got a little bit older, I think you're giving them a gift, because having a mom who realizes, man, she just looks a little off today. You know, maybe we're just going to sit on the couch and read a book and whatever. See, what if he feels a little off? And in school, you can't feel off because you got to move with the program. And so schools are wonderful. I love schools. I run a school. I think everybody should have schools, but I do think that in the elementary years, that having that one-on-one attention with a person who knows them better than anybody in the world, who loves them more than anybody in the world, and who wants to see them grow in virtue is really important. So that's my soapbox, but
Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome.
Hi, Henry. Yeah, I think that's my gut feeling, and I think what I'm really wanting to do, but somehow it feels impractical. And it's hard for me to get past that mental block of, wow, I could be a lot more efficient or a lot more focused with my 2-year-old if I had a couple days off with, the 4 and 6-year-old. But I think part of me just wants to, stick with, have an overarching long-term plan of sticking with homeschooling and then transitioning later.
Right.
So,
exactly.
And that sounds like that's what you did, was 7th grade. Okay.
Well, and the truth was they opened this classical school and we took my oldest daughter, and I don't know if a lot of you have big families. The first one kind of like tells everybody what the plan is.
Yeah.
And so we took her to interview, and they told her that in 7th grade, they start changing classes. And so we get in the car and she goes, I'll start in 7th grade. And I was like, really? Why? She said, well, I figure for the first couple of weeks, we'll all look like we don't know what we're doing, and I'll just slip right in. I thought, well, that's a good plan. So then, of course, the other ones just pretty much do whatever she does. So we just went with that. But it's been that changing classes is nice. The other thing that you have to remember is I send them in 7th grade and they have like 5 or 6 teachers a day. Well, you can tolerate pretty much anything for 50 minutes. In elementary school, you have one woman. I mean, imagine having to listen to me all day long for a year. It's a wonder the kindergartners don't go running into the woods. Like, stop talking to me, woman. So remember that it's a long day with a teacher. If they gel and it's great and they love each other, kudos. If they don't and it's not great and you're miserable, that's sad when you're 5.
Yeah.
But I have a big heart for 5-year-olds. So sometimes your brain hurts and you just can't do math. All right. Got anybody else?
Hey, Shell.
Yes, Angela, how are you?
Yeah. All right. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. I love listening to you, of course. But I just wanted to pop in here. I'm actually monitoring the vendor hall too, but I wanted to pop in and say, hey, the best advice I ever got about homeschooling was every year you get to make a new decision. Every year we decided, are we going to keep doing this or not? Now we've ended up homeschooling our 2 guys through the whole way, and it's been great. But every year I sat down and had a serious discussion with myself as whether or not I was up to doing this for one more year. So just keep that in mind when you're, April comes around and you're like, I think I'm gonna have to kill these children or grease the bathtub and the doorknobs and lock them in order to survive. So just keep that in mind.
And it's true that I always tell my teachers, the first quarter of school, life is grand. The second quarter of school, it's nativity. Who can be sad during nativity? The third quarter of school, I live in North Carolina. It is cold, it is wet, it is disgusting. And everybody wants to kill everybody. So that third quarter, January, February, March, and it's the pre-Lenten struggle. And then you get to fourth quarter, and after spring break, Pascha comes and all you can see is flowers. So if you find yourself in January, February, or March wondering, what have I done to myself? I would just encourage you to just put the brakes on. You can always wait till April to make your decisions. And then it is good. Sit down with your spouse and make the decision as to what you're going to do the next year. I would advise you that when you start, go ahead and stay where you are. I have people that call me and ask me if they can switch their kid into my school like in February. And I tell them no. I mean, they have a desk. They know what they're doing. They know the system. And if you move them now, if that throws their whole mojo off, don't do that. Wait until August and then they can come, or wait until August and we'll make an assessment. So go ahead and don't feel trapped. You're not trapped, but January, February, March, you're going to feel like you're trapped in a trap and you want to chew your leg off. So just take those words of encouragement. Wonderful. All right. Somebody was supposed to pop in here and do a drawing. Angela, do you know who that is?
That would be me.
All right, Father.
Yes. So thank you so much for your encouragement and in the lighthearted fashion and really good observations from everyone as well. So we have a couple of things I'm going to put on the screen here. We are doing drawings at each of our adult sessions of products that we have been given by our sponsors and vendors. And the first one here is this 2-pack of planners from Parousia Press. And we are doing the drawing from those who were in attendance here. That's already been done. And the winner of this one for this session is Kobe. And I'm just going to say the first letter of the last name, L, because this is being recorded. And let's see here. We have one other. Sorry, I'm slow in getting these up. We also have one other item that is provided to us by Amelia's Post, this nice print with the mother's prayer on it. And the winner is the Hibbard family. The Hibbard family.
Yay. Well,
So
I have to say, those are both beautiful items. Excellent. You will really enjoy them.
We will be in touch on these through your contact information that you provide in your registration. Each of our adult sessions, there are drawings like this. So the drawing part happens randomized towards the beginning of the session. So encourage you to try to log in and join us at the beginning of each of those. I also want to do a quick shout out here to our sponsor for the day. We have 3 sponsors who are sponsoring our conference this year for a day each. And this one today is Hellenic College, Holy Cross, the Greek Orthodox College and School of Theology in the Boston area. And we really appreciate their generosity in helping us to have this conference and to support this day. So those are the details. And we have a little bit of a break here until 7 o'clock for our next session. And the next adult session is with Andrew Kern on the virtue of sickness. Sure to be an interesting presentation, as all of Andrew's are.
Father, can I read this? I do want to read you guys this comment that I got because I think it's very important. It has a few words.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
All right. It says, we are finishing the 3rd year of homeschooling. Our family moved to a rural area this year. We have a small farm, cow, goats, sheep, rabbits, chickens, cats, dogs. Kids are very happy at the farm. They have chores they do every day, but because of the moving from one state to another, our school days have been pretty short, and I get stressed sometimes that we don't teach them enough. Also, here we don't have much interaction with friends during the week. Weekends is a time our kids see friends to play, more so on Sundays at church. Do you think we should try to get them socializing more? I just want to tell you, if I could write a perfect synopsis of homeschooling, that paragraph would be it. And shame on you for saying we don't teach them enough. I don't, if there was anybody in America who was being taught that much, I would be glad. So please feel encouraged. Whoever wrote that quote, that the name, I'm not gonna say the name but that is a beautiful paragraph. And I will tell you, you can never teach them enough, and you can never teach them really too little. It's just finding that balance between teaching them to be like Christ and teaching them to be able to know the skills that they need to do to get through life. I had a doctor tell me one time when my boys don't potty train as well as girls. I don't know if any of you feel that way, but my girls were like, very smart on it. The boys were like, maybe so, maybe not. And I remember saying to him, what's wrong with this boy? And he said, well, I've never met one that went to college in a diaper. And I thought, well, that was a word of wisdom. So thank you for your comment. You are teaching them plenty. I think that's a beautiful day. And I think everybody on the screen would like to come and live at your small farm. So
Yes,
thank all of you so much for being here. I will tell you that if you there's a St. Amelia Facebook page. There's also a couple of different I don't know if you're on Facebook or whatever, Facebook pages and things. So if you need encouragement, if you get stuck, I find that people ask questions on there, and again, so many people answer. You can get some really good advice. So don't homeschool by yourself. Get support. Use your mother-in-law, use your mom, use a friend at church. Don't do it alone. And if you're feeling just terrible, I used to have a friend of mine. I had 6 kids. She had 6 kids. We would call each other, and just to mainly complain about our, terrible trauma, horrible days. And one day I said, oh, if we could just get through March. And she said to me, we've known each other for 20 years. And I think we say that every month. And I said, I think we do. That's how we got through 12 children, homeschooling all of those years. If we could just get through this month. So don't take it all together. Do it in small pieces. And don't forget to say your prayer before your feet hit the ground. Thanks so much. And thank you, Father.